Sara from Hearth Cabinet, and we're sitting here in our Chelsea showroom with Lindsay from 3F Living. This is such a cool way to do a live. Usually we're so far away, or who knows how far we are from each other, and here we're sitting in the same space, getting to chat.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
It's my first Instagram live, so. Ooh.
Yeah, it's exciting. And basically, you know, we worked together for, I think our first project was a long time ago, like 2014.
Yeah, long time ago.
And so for us, as we have talked, you know, what we've been doing over the last year and a half, is really just asking designers and architects and other tradespeople to come talk to us, share your approach to your business, kind of share some of your secrets, and how you select products, how you work with your clients, and sort of what makes you guys unique.
Sure.
And just kind of chat about it. And then of course we're sitting in front of the fireplace, which you've used a couple of times over the years, and it's just nice to talk about some of those projects. We got a sneak peek into a couple of those, one of those spaces recently, and another one you shared photos of as well. So. So tell us a little bit about your business. So 3F Living is comprised of you, Lindsay.
Yes. So we are a husband-wife duo. So my husband is the lead architect. We essentially help our clients from the initial design to move-in day. So everything from, you know, people even contact us and say, can you come on a walkthrough to see if there's like a potential to do what we want to do? So a lot of times they'll reach out to us and we'll do that. So it's really from the start of even purchasing an apartment, through the design, through the interior design and the architecture, getting, you know, for city people, co-op and board approval, which is like a big deal in the city. Sure. And then also getting through DOB and landmarks, which is like another big thing. Yeah. And going through the construction process, through contract and construction administration and project coordination and things like that, as well as decorating. So we kind of have 3 phases. Not everybody uses us for all 3. It can be a la carte, but I would say predominantly people want us from at least from the design to, you know, construction coordination. So
yeah, well, and I think that in itself is unique. Not everybody has that opportunity to kind of offer a full service process. And I think, yeah, as you said, it certainly allows for more flexibility as things, you know, problems arise, right, with all projects, as well planned as they may be. It's great to be able to be a part of the solution throughout the process. So, for example, you're on the design side, your husband is on the...
Well, we're both designers at the end of the day. You know, I mean, an architect is a designer just in different ways, and I'm a designer. But we really do, I think that the lovely part of it is the fact that we collaborate together. Now, obviously, we have a whole team that works with us. It's not just him and I, but we are the 2 leads. And so it's nice to be able to have that symmetry between the architect and the designer, because a lot of people that are going through this process, they have to hire an architect separate from the designer, and sometimes there's like a lot of clashing, but we speak the same language, and so that's the great part of it, you know. And then also being able to, as you know, through the years we have preferred vendors like you guys, like Hearth Cabinets, and then a lot of other ones in terms of contractors and mill workers. So we really help the clients bid out the project. We're there to answer any questions so that they don't feel like they're on their own through it. And that can be really overwhelming. So.
Right, of course. And thinking about, having preferred vendors, preferred contractors, mill workers, upholstery, etc. I think those are all, can be overwhelming for somebody who, you know, is, whether it's their first, their second, their 5th home, city, country, you know, I think it especially if somebody's working full-time, is just hard to, you know, be able to
manage all that.
Yeah, be focused and be excited about it. Whereas, you know, if they're bringing in a team that is excited and, you know, again, kind of speaks their language, and can speak for them when they're not there. I think that's also really important.
It is. I mean, I think that the owner's representation really comes in with us during construction, right? Because like they're not there to answer the day-to-day, and no matter how many probes we do before we submit drawings and all the things, curveballs come up during construction, especially in the city. You're dealing with, shareholders in a building that are just right there. There's so many things that, you think that a pipe's going to be in one location, but it's not. And so there's all kinds of kind of field coordination and adjustments that we really are able to help with, which I think is great.
And I remember one of your recent shoots, or maybe it was just on Instagram, that was a photo of a laundry room.
Oh, yes.
And there was I forget what it was. Was it the water pipe?
Yeah.
So the location of the water pipe.
Yeah. So that was
whether it was
huge,
planned or
no,
unplanned.
100% not
The resolution
planned.
was very cool.
Yeah, it was not planned, and that just goes to show you that we've done this a lot of times where you can do the side-by-side, washer and dryers,
right.
which is great. So you can have the countertop and you can fold clothes and do all the things you need to do.
Yeah.
But when we opened up the walls where we wanted to have this, which you don't have a lot of flexibility, there were a ton of risers that were going horizontally in that location. And so between that and then DOB requirements that the shutoff valves and everything have to be at a certain height, we had to work this around inside a tile backsplash to have a cover that could be acting as a shelf, but also accessible and looks nice.
Yeah.
So that was a big curveball. But and the clients were upset at first, but then when they saw the execution at the end, they're like, oh, we actually use this to put things on now, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, well, the world of design is just constant problem solving. From design all the way out, obviously through construction, where the real challenges sometimes come out because you draw something or you conceptualize it and then draw it and go to build it, and then a pipe isn't in the same place. Yeah. So for that project, was that the combination?
So that was a combination,
No.
but that wasn't the one that was the vertical combination.
Got it.
But that was a combination job. And actually that laundry room was their original kitchen. So since they bought the other apartment, we were able to utilize the other kitchen in the new apartment and kind of open it up into a huge U shape, while still utilizing that wet area in the existing kitchen to make a formal laundry room, which nobody in the city ever has. So that was a big win.
Yeah.
It was a huge win.
That's amazing.
So,
That's amazing. And for the building to allow for them to do that.
Yes.
Because I know a lot of buildings
They do not.
depending on how old the building is, they do not allow that.
Yes.
Even if there's a kitchen that is no longer being used. But
True.
Anyway.
True story.
So in terms of your business approach and style, do you bring something specific after your approach? Do you bring something specific to each project? Is there a signature style, a signature component, a signature detail that you try to integrate into each project? Or
I think that it's so funny. It kind of goes back to 3F living, right? What does that stand for?
Yeah.
So form follows functional living, right? So there's 3 F's.
Yeah.
We really identify, both my husband Tomek and I, when we're looking at a space, it's always about the space itself.
Right.
And how do we create a practical, functional, but yet aesthetically pleasing environment?
Right.
And so it really comes down to, I think, how we see the space. And that's something that you can't put, pin into what that is.
Yeah.
I know a lot of our clients, they'll say, oh, I bought this apartment. I want to show you what they did upstairs or in the same line. I'm like, I don't want to see it. I want to look at this through our eyes first, and then we'll present you 3 options, and then we can go into that. And it's so funny. Usually when that happens, we end up presenting them something where we're flipping, bathrooms and kitchens and all the things that hasn't been done before in that line, and it makes for such a huge investment and a better space. Yeah. So for us, clearances, lighting is so important. Creating an ambient, lighting in the space, that's important, as well as, I think, really collaborating with the client on their own style. We obviously tend to be more in that warm, modern, kind of Scandinavian-ish vibe, but we've certainly worked in all kinds of styles. And since we work in residential, it's really about the client. You know, some people have saved their whole life to buy something in the city, renovate and make it their own.
Right.
So we're not in that mindset where it has to be our signature,
Sure.
but we do like to bring our signature to the space and how we lay it out,
Right.
and then layer everything on top of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, well, it's nice to consider how people are going to use the space too,
Yeah.
right? So is it a full-time residence and they've saved all of their pennies to get here, or is it a pied-à-terre? Is it just a seasonal residence? And
Actually, not to interrupt, but
No.
this makes me think of one of the last projects that we
Yeah.
worked with you. So that was
Pied-à-terre?
so it was supposed to be a pied-à-terre. So they purchased it. They lived in Jersey, this client, and they were looking to retire in like 10 or 15 years, that maybe they would use it more frequently. They had 2 kids that were in college, and we had gone through the project. We were, I'd say, about 3 months from completion, if you remember.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we think that we're going to make this more of a primary residence,
Right.
and we may purchase the place next door in a few years. So we want to really invest in the space. And then I was like, okay, well, what would you like to change? And they were like, we really want a fireplace.
Oh,
And I was like,
okay.
I know exactly what to do.
That's
And
so
this was
funny.
like 3 months before completion. I don't know if you remember, we came in
I
here.
forgot that it was
And I
right
was
at the
like,
end
we
of the
gotta
process.
get this going,
Yeah.
you know? So we had to make it feel more like their New Jersey residents,
Right.
where like they're used to having the fireplace, they're
Sure.
used to having all these things, and
Yeah.
they're like, well, we want a mantle, we want all the
Yeah.
stuff. So it was kind of an impromptu thing, and well late in the game of
Sure.
considering that, but we were able to do it with the contractor and
Yeah.
make it a great space.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I think for this type of product, for Hearth Cabinet, it is something that can be part of the project from day one. A client says, I want a fireplace, in 3 to 6 to 9 months, 12 months down the road, when you get to
Right.
construction, this gets installed. Or, right, it can be a last minute decision where
And you were so great to work with on that too, because you were like, oh, we want this type of tile. You're like, okay, well, I have a few here. We can try to like work, because I was like, it has to be done in 3 months,
Yeah.
and that's like you said, it's not always a standard thing. So we had to work with what you had available and get it done. But
Yeah.
it was a beautiful execution.
it
So
looks
was
really
very-
great.
Yeah.
And I think actually we just heard from that client and saw some pictures. So I hope that
Yeah.
we'll chat about that, and
Yeah.
hopefully we can share it and show it off.
Definitely.
Because that was a fun, I had forgotten about the process. We're one part of
I know.
these huge projects, and so at the end when we say, "Ooh, we want to see how it looks," do you love it? How's it going? And we're just one part of the project, so it's always sometimes hard to get our hands on photos, but it's
Yeah.
always fun when we do, because it is, it's this wonderful feature that especially this time of year people cozy up to and
Yeah.
enjoy.
And I think it's different in the city to be able to do that, because it is qualified to
Yeah.
be in a New York City apartment, and that's like a huge factor. There's a lot of other companies that that sometimes do this, but
Yes.
they're not certified in the city to be able to have that. So I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah, I mean that's right from our architecture founding.
Mhm.
The founder was an architect and product liability attorney, and really focused on the legality of it all, and then turned it into something that's really beautiful and elegant and safe and code compliant.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we're talking about this, fireplaces in general, we were just talking earlier today. There's wood burning fireplaces are no longer an option in new construction. Gas is now going to be hard to put in. So this is kind of a neat way to do it. Again, whether it's from the beginning of a project or sort of an afterthought
Yeah.
that can be added in.
Absolutely.
So what are you guys working on now? What's or what can you share that you're working on now?
Oh, well, this is kind of exciting. So we are starting a townhouse project
Oh, cool.
off of Fifth Avenue in the 60s. Can't give much more
Yeah,
than that.
that's good.
But that's a really big deal to us because we've done some brownstones
Yeah.
in Park Slope, but to have one on the Upper
That's
East
exciting.
Side is very exciting, to do a staircase and
Oh,
all the
wow.
things. And we're actually starting, we think, in 2 to 3 weeks. And we're actually going to film that as well to
Neat.
kind of show on our YouTube channel, to kind of show that process, which
Right.
will be really fun. And
great.
it's also working within in existing style, so you know you have their pre-war conditions, and how much are we restoring, and how much are we adding in, are we modernizing it, in what way. So stay tuned, because we're excited.
That's
like
cool.
Big stuff.
That is exciting. So what, in terms of that project, or you're taking obviously what exists, is there existing furniture that you're working with, or is it all sort of, are you starting from scratch?
We're essentially starting from scratch. But the client, she travels a lot.
Okay.
She does have a residence where she's at in Italy.
Okay.
So we are definitely, leaning into that like Italian, like marbles and that kind of look and feel. We definitely want to do some like really cool kind of ceiling work, inlaid wood flooring with maybe some metal, touches and reveals in that. So.
Fun.
Yeah, I mean, and we're still working out some ideas for the railing, but we're doing kind of like one of those curved kind of staircases that's more sculptural and looks more like it's floating than what it is now, where it's like this big up against the window wall. So
that's exciting. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I've started to see more of that in projects. Right, is how you make a staircase this really beautiful feature, even if it doesn't have this elegant railing.
Yeah, I mean, you have to work within, structure, and we are very lucky to have built the team that we've built over the last, almost 12 to 15 years, and, to be able to have a structural engineer, like, within our group, and to be able to have, like, people that we can rely on, and really, and a contractor, that we really adore working with, and that I know is very collaborative. That's very hard to find. Contractors that are collaborative like that, but he's very much invested in the outcome of the project, not just like the bottom line, which I think says something. Are you in that project? Are you keeping? Is there anything that any sort of original details that you? We are keeping the fireplaces.
Yes. Okay. So they have wood burning fireplaces.
They do.
And they're up to code.
So we may be doing. So right now there's a gas.
Yeah.
And we don't know exactly what we're doing with that.
Yeah.
We have to kind of test the line and see what kind of happens. That's very complicated, and that's actually underneath a separate submission that we're doing, just on fireplaces.
I know,
because
its own animal.
Yeah, so as of right now, we're not touching them, but I'm sure we'll have to do something around it. But,
and so do they have, are you keeping original
like the old
mantles?
Right now, we are, but again, like once we demo and kind of see how that's going to integrate with the rest of the wall and what we're doing, we may have to take off certain layers of that, because right now none of the fireplaces match, which is kind of a cool thing, because you have at least 4 between the upstairs and the downstairs, and so each one kind of has a different vibe. There's one that's completely out of marble with all of the very integral details of it, which is really cool. But again, it's been over, it's like 1900s, even earlier than that. So just have to kind of see once we get in there. What we'll keep.
And so how, that's, just to unpack that a little bit, how do you decide what to keep? So if you get to a point where structurally it all works, but the client says, I don't like that mantle, obviously you'll change it. But if it's, how do you approach kind of deciding?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, it's kind of, I want to say like a game time decision.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of the times when you're looking at a space that needs a full gut, you don't see all the things, right? But as soon as you demo everything and you leave this one thing, you start noticing other things that may not be able to be restored.
Right.
And a lot of times it depends on decisions and colors and like wood paneling that we're doing surrounding it, and whether it can be easily restained. And sometimes with restoration, you may have this idea like, okay, we can kind of retouch up this molding here and we can restain it. They start doing it and it's so brittle and it just falls apart. So then you're like, okay, now we gotta strip it and kind of make this. So it's very like back and forth. There's not usually 100% a game plan, but it's more of, we like certain areas of it, let's see what we can either restain, reseal, sand, and integrate it more within that design.
Well, that's so exciting. I'm sure you'll keep us posted on progress. So stay tuned. You said weeks or months?
Well, yeah, so we're definitely going to start demo within the next like 2 to 3 weeks, hopefully. But our first kind of like, our Insta stories will definitely document that, but that's only 24 hours. But for the series, it'll probably roll out sometime in the summer. It'll be like the first big one. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. Yeah. Well, we'll keep our eyes out, and we'll stay tuned into that. And I hope that, again, we have all of these wonderful projects. We have to touch base and get photos so that we can show off more of your work. But it's nice that you took time to come and sit with us and chat with us today and share some of the insights. Not everybody shares their approach to design. I think more and more we're seeing that, and I think it's more interesting. And people like to know a little bit about the approach and the style, and it's fun for us to do, to kind of showcase designers who have chosen us over the years, for project, again, whether it's from the beginning or at the end of a project. It's nice to be included.
Even the showroom here has like grown throughout the time of knowing you, and like what the capabilities and the mantles and now the surround, where it wasn't necessarily the case way back when. So it's nice to see that too, to kind of grow together as a company. So it's good.
So fun. Thanks for coming. And we'll keep everybody posted on what's next at 3F Living. And
we're doing our own renovation too. So that's also part of our YouTube series for my husband and I. So you can watch that.
Is that?
We started it. We're probably going to start renovations sometime in like the spring. Ish. So we'll see. We're going to also document that process.
Yeah.
Hopefully won't butt heads too much.
I was going to say that'll have a different level of intensity.
Yes, because it's personal.
It is personal. This is personal.
Us.
This is my space and your space and our space. Fun. Well, thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, we'll talk soon. Thanks everybody for tuning in.